about raiding and some of the philosophy that went into those changes and our systems going forward at our Raid Systems Quests gameplay panel tomorrow. But in the meantime, let me hand this off to Tom, who's going to talk some more about PvP changes.
All right. So do we have any PvPers out here? Okay. I think that was at least 4. All right, so what are we doing with PvP? Here's kind of a summary of the different things that we're tackling. We're going to create a world PvP zone, and I'll talk about that first. That's probably the most meaningful, really new type of thing that we're doing compared to what we've done in the past. We're also making some UI improvements. We're going to make some changes to the way that we do Battleground rewards, and we're also going to introduce a concept that we're calling Trial of the Gladiator. So to start with, what is this world PvP zone you speak of? Well, we're creating a place. It's one of those islands that you guys referenced that was off the coast. It's off the eastern coast of Tanan Jungle. It's called Ashran. And it is a staging area near the Dark Portal that both the Horde and Alliance want to control. This has faction bases on it, and it has a variety of different hotspots. There are a lot of different points of interest the different factions are going to want to control. But really, more than anything else, what separates this from previous PvP world zones that we've done is that it is a PvP sandbox that is persistent and continues on all the time. It isn't like Wintergrass, which really felt like a kind of an instance battleground because it had that start and finish. This is really going to be more like a timeless isle of PvP, in that all the objectives that are there are all PvP oriented, but you're kind of free to go in there and do whatever it is that you want to do. It's a lot like what you might think of as the original Alterac Valley. I don't know if there are many people here that played the original AV. But, there was a day when, you used to queue up for AV, maybe get in the battleground, let's say in the morning. You could leave the battleground sometime to go to work or go to school. And by the end of the day, you come back and you actually jump right back into the same battleground because these things lasted sometimes 24, 48 hours. So that's really what this zone is all about. This is a persistent war in this zone that's going to swing back and forth as time goes on. You can come and go whenever it is that you want and take part. There are a lot of different objectives in the zone, so you'll be able to, kind of pick out whatever it is that you want to do. Do you want to take over the mine to, contribute more supplies to your team? Or do you want to try to build a siege vehicle to take out the enemy base? Whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe take over a tower, etc. And finally, this will use our cross-realm technology, right? Because obviously, I'm guessing maybe some of you play on a realm that doesn't have the best Horde versus Alliance faction population balance. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pairing up realms so that when you go into this zone, and you'll fly into this zone seamlessly, just like you do with cross-realm zones, you will be paired up with other realms that have the opposite problem that your realm has. So really what we're going to be able to do is to create a faction balance using the cross-realm tech that is at least far, far better than what it is on your home realm today. And you guys will, duke it out over that territory. And then if the faction balance changes for whatever reason, we can at any time pair up different realms. So there it is off the coast of Tanan Jungle. This island actually existed in some of the really old Warcraft maps, was sort of referred to as the Deathwing Island, mysteriously. And this is just a concept piece, it's just a mock-up to show kind of some of the environment and art assets that we're looking at using. There are a lot of different pieces that we're going to be assembling to create the Horde and Alliance bases, and there are going to be a ton of different points of interest around also. You're looking at a zone that's going to have constant, non-stop action going on. So for any of you PvPers that really want to just feel like you can go to a zone and hang out and have some kind of, entertaining killing of the other side without a whole lot of structure, this is the place to do it. You'll get to build and commandeer siege vehicles. Some of these are vehicles that you might build over the course of multiple days, right? You might gather some materials on one day and continue your progress on the next day, and then eventually build your machine of mighty destruction and have a rampage on your enemies for a while. You'll be able to reduce the enemy base to rubble, and the battle will rage on. Here are some of the siege vehicles that you'll get to use. You'll also be able to commandeer some of the Iron Horde siege vehicles that are around. The Iron Horde has had a presence here also, so you'll get a mix of different stuff. We have things like the Incinerator. We have the Blade Mortar that shoots this, giant net full of old weapons at your opponent, so it just kind of flays them with shrapnel. Good times. So next up, we have our UI improvements. We have a lot of different things that we're going to try to do to the UI to just make the PvP experience cleaner, a little easier to follow, all that kind of stuff. We have our objective tracker. We're going to do capture status so that you can actually see how much progress you're making toward capturing a point of interest. And we've got some little screenshots to show you what that looks like. So imagine you're looking at the Arathi Basin map, and right now, today, unless you have a mod like Deadly Boss Mods, you really don't have the ability to see how much time there is left to capture a point of interest. So now you'll actually be able to see that right on the map. I'll zoom in a little bit, right? So be able to see how close you are to capturing it. We'll also be able to reflect that in the actual world assets themselves, right? So today you see, when you capture the blacksmith, let's say, you see the Alliance flag go up. And then, it's gray until you finally capture it, and then it, turns blue. But now it'll actually fill in with its color as it's in the process of capturing. So even just as you're fighting out in the world, you'll have a better sense of how close you are to capturing that point of interest. We're also going to introduce the concept of a battleground score. So the battleground score is something that we're going to be able to do to give players a clearer sense of how they're doing in the battleground. Here's a little screenshot of what the scoreboard's going to look like in 6.0. And the default sorting, you'll notice, is by score. Today, the default sorting is by, killing blows. A lot of people resort their battleground scoreboard by, damage done, or if you're a healer, by healing, stuff like that. But it's really hard to, get a sense of exactly how you're doing versus other people. And that feels like not really the best way to sort. So we've heard a lot of feedback over the years that players really want to get a better sense of how well they're doing in a battleground. And this score will factor in everything that you're doing. It's really, a lot of it is based around the objectives that you're completing. And then, of course, your damage and healing factor in as well. Your deaths, your kills, all that kind of good stuff. This way, you really have an ability to look at it and see, okay, how am I doing? And potentially, it could play into the rewards at the end. It could also maybe help us identify AFKers better, too. So I also talked a bit about the reward system and what we're going to try to do with that. So today, one of the problems that we have with PvP is that it's too deterministic. And we love some of that determinism in that okay, well, I need this much honor to be able to buy the legs that I want to buy, or the helmet or whatever. But it feels a bit formulaic in that from week to week, okay, well, it's going to take me about 8 battlegrounds, and I'll have enough honor to buy the pair of pants, and it just feels very formulaic. We thought it would be really cool to break that up with bonus random rewards. So, of course, the honor system is going to stay in place, and you'll still earn honor, and you'll be able to buy the items exactly as you do today. But wouldn't it be cool if at the end of any given battleground or even arena, if you had a chance to get lucky and win some stuff in advance? Hey, here's to getting lucky. So what are the things that you can get? You can get items, maybe that pair of legs that you really have been wanting to buy. You might get lucky and roll that and happen to get it in advance. You might get some bonus honor. You might get some bind on equip gear. And so while the bind on equip gear might not be the stuff that's a direct upgrade for your character, it might be, depending on where you are in your progression. It could also be really cool to put on the auction house and actually make some money off of doing PvP. Imagine that. Also, we'll have things like consumables, stuff like that, so that, if you ever wanted to have, something like the battleground potions that we used to do back in the day, this is a really cool way to earn those things. Finally, we'll also be able to do a weekly quest to upgrade an item so that it takes a little bit of the pressure off of your honor in terms of, should I buy an item, or should I use my honor to upgrade an item, or that sort of thing. We'll be able to do a weekly quest to complete, to win a certain number of battlegrounds or arenas. And as soon as you do, then boom, you'll be able to upgrade an item. And last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about this thing that we're calling the Trial of the Gladiator. And so you might be asking yourself, what is the Trial of the Gladiator? I know what gladiators are, but how does this work? Well, Trial of the Gladiator is the arena ladder. I don't know how many of you are, fairly competitive in the arena these days, but yeah, hell yeah. So one of the problems that we have is that it's very difficult to find people of your caliber, if you're a really high-end competitive player, to play with at the same time. And so really the Trial of the Gladiator is taking the concept of the arena ladder that we have right now and really focusing it to concentrate the queues at certain periods of time during the week so that you really get a lot of people in the queues at the same time, and that it also provides great benefits to us in terms of finding people that are exploiting. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but pretty much any time there's an exploit going on with the arena ladders or even the rated battleground ladders, it has something to do with a couple of sketchy dudes logging in at like 4 a.m. and queuing against their other sketchy friends and manipulating the ladders. And so by concentrating all the activity into a shorter period of time, it gives us an ability to monitor that much more closely, and also it makes it a lot harder to exploit because there are a lot of people in the queues when that thing's happening. In addition, one of the really exciting things here is that we get to use what we call tournament rules. So this is a lot like the way the arena server works, right? So when you go to the arena server, it's not a competition about gear. Anybody can go to the Trial of the Gladiator and use the vendors and put on the gear that they want to use and hop right into the Trial of the Gladiator. It is purely about the skill. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to grind toward your gear on a season-by-season basis, this is the thing for you. You show up, everybody has the same item level, you pick which items that you want to use, and you jump in there, and that's what you use. Your PvE gear won't work in there, only this stuff. And this, of course, will determine your prestige rewards. So if you ever wanted that Gladiator title or mount, this is the place that you're going to do it. Your regular season kind of stuff that you do is going to happen, and you'll be able to earn your honor and conquest and buy gear and all that kind of stuff that you can use to take into the world PvP zone. But really, the crux of how you're going to get the prestige stuff is through here. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank all you guys for coming out here, and unfortunately, we don't have any time for Q&A, but fortunately, we anticipated that, and we created an entire panel that is purely for Q&A. That'll be near the end of the day tomorrow. But what I do want to do is call out some of the other WoW panels that we're going to be having. We have the Adventure Continues panel to talk more about the lore of the Warlords of Draenor expansion today at 2:30. We have the art panel. You do not want to miss the art panel. It is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Also, raids, gameplay, questing, and more. We'll talk in more depth about a lot of the stuff you just heard about, and then our QA. So thanks and take care.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for